All right, so we're starting now. So today we'll be looking at Illustrator again. It's almost like a part 2 section. Last time we were in class, unfortunately I didn't record that session, but we were looking at creating a few things. I don't think I have them here. It's here we go. We're looking at creating a few things. We looked at creating a few shapes. Just getting used to Illustrator and how the tools work, how layers work. So it's almost like a quick recap, right? So we have lines and shapes and colors, and we created an envelope using different shapes. We created also a box. Still recording. Apologies. So after we created all that stuff, we're just jumping into what we call um, Pathfinder Tool. We'll be using Pathfinder today. So we'll be using the Pathfinder options and also the pen tool. And we'll be looking at a few shapes that we can use to trace them over so we can get a better feel of the software. For those of you who weren't present, we actually looked at a game that can help you to master the pen tool. And that is found at this website, bezier.method.ac. So if you need to get practice with the pen tool, this website will definitely help you, right? So take note of that. All right. So to start the Pathfinder, let's tell you what it's about. Essentially, it is a panel or a feature of Illustrator that allows you to manipulate shapes, meaning you can create more than one shape and have them interact with each other in different ways. So I'm going to show you an example of this by using two sets of shapes. I'm going to use a circle, and I'm going to use I'm sorry, that's a circle, that's a rectangle, and an ellipse. Right, so I'm going to select both of those. I'm going to create a shape like so. One is going to be black, one is going to be some form of magenta or red, or rather I'm going to change the color to like a blue. Right, so we have some shapes. So these two shapes, I'm not sure if you can see that quite clearly, so I'm going to change the brightness of it. So let's say we have two shapes. We have a blue square and a red or magenta ellipse. And what we want to do is I'm going to just create a few copies of these. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to also paste it, right? One there. Just have them line up. You can use the smart guides to help you. I'm going to copy that, paste it, just position it. And what I'll just do to save myself the trouble, I want to copy all of these all at once, so I get like 9 of them. I'm not sure if I need all of them, but just hold Alt once you've made your selection, and you'll see a double or duplicate icon come up with a cursor, which is your duplicate selection. And you just click and drag. I'm holding Shift at the same time, so it just snaps that. And let's create this. I want to create this as well. Okay, so we have 9 of the same shapes, or 9 sets of shapes. And if we look in our layer here, we see that all of them are on the same layer, but each object is a separate element. You can always select this to choose which one you want to use. All right, so let's get to the Pathfinder now. So if you want to find the Pathfinder, if for any reason you can't find the Pathfinder, you can always hit Window and scroll down to Pathfinder, and that particular panel will pop up. Yeah, that was a tongue twister there. All right, so Pathfinder is now up, right? And you will see a variety of options. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 options. So we need an extra 1 or 2. So I'm going to create a copy here. I'm going to put that copy just above, or I'm going to put it right over here. And we'll use that copy as, for example, my original. And we just make one more copy and put it somewhere else, right beside this one. I'll just shift these guys over. Okay. So here's how the Pathfinder works. It causes two shapes or two or more shapes. Usually it's two shapes. It can't be working with like a million shapes all at once for all cases. but it can unite or divide or intersect and all these different things for mainly two shapes. So let's say we have one and two shapes. Now, the red shape is on top of the blue shape, right? But if you come over here to shape modes in Pathfinder, the first one says unite. But you should also take note of your little tooltip there. It says Alt click to create a compound shape and add to shape area. What that means is that you're creating a non-destructive shape, meaning that you'll always have access to those two shapes and you can manipulate it any way you feel like. So let me show you what that means. If I just click on it, it merges the shape that's at the top, giving you a completely new shape. So this is now one shape, right? That's one shape. If you, for instance, now decide that you want to hold Alt and you hold Alt for a particular operation, you click on it, it still has the two shapes, but the thing is it groups them as one compound shape. But you can always manipulate one shape here and it still looks like they've united. So when you hold Alt and you click on one of the operations, it gives you, how do you say, backwards compatibility, meaning that you can always go backwards and fix it. However, with the first shape, it becomes one new shape entirely, and you can't do anything else about it unless you press undo a bunch of times and go back to its original shape. So that's the unite option. I'm going to hold Alt for all of these just so I can keep them all. So that's unite, right? So that merges the two shapes. Whatever the color of the one on top, it's going to keep the color for all of them. So if instead we put this one to the back and this one to the front, and I click on this one and choose unite, it becomes blue. So the one on top overrides the one at the bottom when it comes to these operations here. All right, next option. We have the second option in shape mode, which says minus front. What do you think that's going to do? It's practically going to delete what's in front. So if I click on it, it erases what's in front. So essentially, if you want to create logos, people use basic shapes sometimes, and then they use operations like this to get some very simplistic looking things. All right, let's go to the next shape. We have one that says intersect. And intersect, if you remember set theory, when they had an intersection when it comes to sets, you can actually, it does a shape like that. So it takes the two shapes, but when they cross over is when it actually keeps that particular shape. Okay so far? Next one, highlight this, and we have one that says exclude, which if you look at the icon carefully, it's going to take out what's in the middle and leave everything else. So you get a shape kind of like that. Right? Now let's go to the actual Pathfinder options down here. You have divide, you have trim, you have merge, crop, outline, and minus back, which minus back is opposite of minus front. So let's choose the first one. This one says divide. And what that does is, if we're going to outline mode, I'm going to show you. So we'll go to view and choose outline. You can see all the outlines of everything. Cool. So all of them look like that. So if we were to go on these two shapes, and I'm going to just highlight them, I just select them like this, and choose this, divide. Basically what it's going to do is split up. So it looks like a group right now, but what it has done is actually split every single shape apart. Right? So wherever the lines were crossed, it split them up into separate parts. Okay? So that's what the divide does. Let's look at this one. Some of them do actually look like they do the same thing as well. So let's look at this one. This one says trim. Click on that. And what it does, whatever is behind gets trimmed out from what's in front. So now if we look at this and you just double click on it to get the individual shapes, it subtracts what was in the back, hence creating that shape. Now for the next one, let's highlight these two. We have this one here, merge. Let's see what that does. So it merges them, but even still, although it says merge, it really is, it combines the shapes, but it's still minus from the back, but they become one shape. But the reason why you know it's two shapes, because we said that every element is separated by lines and colors, and because there's two colors here, you know that there's two distinct shapes. Now let's go to the next one. Crop. Let's see what this does. Crop does that. So whatever was at the back takes precedence, giving you a simple shape to this, right? And you don't have another shape here backing it up. It's just gone, right? You even have this. Let's try something with a line. Oh, let me put a line on this guy. And I make the line just a little bit bigger to see what the operation might look like. Right, so let's highlight these two. And we're gonna choose crop, and it still does the same thing. Now for the next one. This one is outline, which is gonna convert these to outlines. Essentially, you'll see all the outlines. And if you need to be thicker, you can always increase the size of it. Of course, the individual colors will still be there. And last but not least, you have minus back, which the blue is at the back. So basically, when you minus the back of this, you're just gonna get this shape, because you're subtracting the whole shape of the what's at the back. And that's how the Pathfinder works. It's giving you a whole bunch of different options or arrangements. So we'll just use a rectangle and the circle as options or as examples, but you could take any two shapes and do the same things to them, right? So that's one part of it. And then when we look at the shapes that we have here for today's little activity, and I'll just jump back into my downloads folder. Oh my. Let's look for the file that has the things. T tracing exercise. So if we look at the Pepsi logo, right? Originally, what shape do you think this would be? An ellipse, right? And then you could see that they probably minused a shape in front. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the same Pepsi logo and we're going to recreate it, right? So after we do this, I'm going to stop the recording and then everybody can get involved. So I'm going to record me doing this Pepsi logo right now. Probably the Pepsi logo and probably a maple leaf, so you can get an idea of how we use the pen tool in Illustrator to get the curves. So what I'll do, first of all, is I'm going to create a new artboard. So let's say I want to keep what I have over here. Right, so let me move this Pathfinder over to the right. And I'll take this and just set here. I'll create an artboard for you as well. Right, so one big artboard here. Love is a flag flowing high from. Okay, here we go. So that's two artboards. And if I want to, so the reason why I'm working with artboards is, like, take it for an example. You're a designer. You have several logos to create. And rather than having to put a new design in a new document, you can put in an artboard. When push comes to shove and you need to export them, you can actually export the individual artboards as documents or print them out separately or save them as individual files when you're finished, which I'll be showing you afterwards. But for now, let's create one more artboard. So we're using the Artboard tool. That's this one. The shortcut is Shift O. And if you want to, you just drag and create one. You can see the height and the width there being created. And I'll just get it to be about this size. Right? If you're not comfortable with a size like that, you can always change it. Right, so it says 999 by 999, and that's fine. So we have two artboards here. So we want to recreate this Pepsi logo. So I'm going to give myself a little, let's move this and just drag this into Illustrator. If you don't drag it in, another way you could always bring the image in is like this. Go to File, you can choose Place, and just navigate to the file. Right, so you could always just click on it and place it in. Or if you feel like it, you can press open. You can actually open the file as a new document. Then you click on it, copy it, which is Control C or Ctrl C, and or Command C depending on if you have a Mac or not, and just paste it in, and it'll just pop up there. Cool. So let's recreate this Pepsi logo. Now there's two ways you could actually get this logo as a vector. One, recreating it from scratch. Two, we have an option here at the top that says live trace, which converts your raster images, that's images that are made with pixels, into a vector images, which is paths and colors. So if you click on live trace, it's going to give us something like this, which is black and white version. That's because it goes with the default preset. So you can always change that by going over to the presets. And for some of you who are using CSCC, you can always check the right side where it has the properties, and just change your properties to probably not default, but color 6, which gets only 6 colors if those 6 colors exist, right? So I'm going to use that. If you want to change it, however, it asks you an option. Do you want to have max colors 6? No, we want maximum colors to be probably 3, which would be white and red and blue, right? And then afterwards you could choose to expand it, and it becomes a shape, and you can see it has a path afterwards. So that's one way you could do it. And just note to self, vector images, when you convert raster to vector images, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to always be 100% accurate, because if you look at the Pepsi logo in terms of the way this eye looks compared to the way it was rendered out, right, it comes out really choppy or really weird, right, and some parts not sharp again, and all those different things. All right, so let's actually create this using the Pathfinder tool. So I'm going to remove this. So let's start off. What's the first shape you think we need to start with? What's the first shape? A circle, right? What's the best way to get a circle? So here's what I'm going to do to myself, or for myself. All right, let's highlight this, and I'm going to group this as one thing. You can press Ctrl G to group, or if you right click, the option should be there for you to right click and you choose group. You can always group them as one object, so they all move at once. What I'll do now, this is our actual raster image. This is the pixelated one. I'll scale this up so I kind of have a reference to work with. I'm also going to lower the opacity to about 40, so it's more transparent. And I don't really need to worry about color so much at this point. What I'll do is take my ellipse tool. I'm going to make sure I'm using the lines for now. I don't really need to worry about the colors just yet. And what I'll do is just draw a perfect circle by holding Shift while dragging and just getting this out of the way. So that's one circle there. Cool. Now if you can't see the circle too brightly, right, let's change the size of that. So let's change the size of the stroke to more. And the next thing we need now is we need kind of like a cut across here, and afterwards it kind of just curves and does this weird thing. So there's two ways I could do that. I'm going to show you one way that's easier for me. So if you're familiar with the pen tool, all we're going to be doing is using the pen tool to essentially recreate this white area. Now it doesn't matter where I start, preferably I'd probably just start on the outside. So I'll click here, and I know it's going to curve slightly, so I might come over here and just drag it till it kind of lines up. Just keep dragging. Eventually you'll get it, and it kind of fits around. That's where it fits. So I'm good with that. Looks like that, right? Right, so 1, that's done. 2, we need to get a shape looking like this. Curves and kind of just comes back out. So after you finish drawing this one line, we could actually click off, click on the pen tool again, which is P as a shortcut. It's located here, looks like a fountain pen. And the next part is I'm going to try and click from here. I'm just going to come around and so imagine when I curve it here, it's going to have to stop curving about here before it goes into a relative straight line. So I'm clicking here and then afterwards, like so. And then I'm going to pull this up just a smidge and just carry this up like so. Once I'm satisfied, let's make sure that this line, this invisible line that I cannot see, has the same stroke like this. Remember which tool we use? You put it in your eye when it's Eyedropper Tool. Right, the shortcut is the I. Well, I on the keyboard, which gives us the Eyedropper Tool. Another way you could actually reach it is if we go somewhere like, not direct selection, but rather down here, Eyedropper Tool. So we click in the Eyedropper Tool, so we have our line selected that we want to change, and just click our Eyedropper Tool and just click, and it takes on the same properties. We're almost there, aren't we? The problem is we have two lines, and Pathfinder doesn't work with lines, it works with shapes. So in order to get these lines to be shaped, we need to just close the lines so that they become one shape. So what we'll do is use the direct selection tool, and that allows you to directly select different parts of the shape. So that's one. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. Actually, let me go into outline mode, view, outline. So I want to select this point here. So that's one point right there. And I hold shift and select the next point. And then you have the option of joining them together. So it says connect selected endpoints, right? And what it does is just create a straight line between them. And the same thing for these two. Click on one, hold shift and select the other one, and just join those paths. What does that do? It gives us one shape. Cool. So this is a shape now. The whole thing is a shape. And now the next piece is we need to cut this shape in front from the shape at the back. So let's change both of these to actual colors now. So that's going to be a color, and this one I'm going to change to another color that is interesting, probably green. Right, so we have those two shapes. So click on one, hold shift, click the other one, and which one of these operations do you think we should use? Do we unite them? Do we merge them together as one shape? Do we subtract the front or minus the front? Do we intersect them? What we do is minus the front, which because the blue is in the front and the green is at the back. So if we hit minus front, you get that shape, like this, because you're subtracting from the front. And then now these two are not two shapes, but they're one shape. So what we want to do is ungroup them. So you can just right click and choose ungroup, because by default it groups them when it does that operation. So now we have one shape here and one shape here. Now I want this shape to be the same exact color as this red Pepsi. So I click on that, shape, click on the Eyedropper tool, click on that, you get the red one. Click on this one, use the Eyedropper tool again, and click on the blue one. And we have just recreated a multi-million-dollar logo. Yeah, except for the text. The text is a little bit more tricky. So that's how you can recreate a logo. And if you feel like it, I don't like this particular Pepsi logo, I wanna do some extra with it, Maybe you want to put an eye in there or something. And decide, okay, I'm gonna put in an eye, one eye here and one eye here. Right, and you say, yeah, that's my new logo. Right? So that's one of the ways you can actually create a logo. So what I want you to do is try doing that. Try recreating the Pepsi logo using the steps I just showed you a while ago. Essentially, you draw a circle, you draw the lines that form the shape, you merge the two lines, and then afterwards you cut that new shape out from the original shape and then change the two individual colors. So thank you for watching. Have a nice drawing thing.